guys, welcome back to Marlins 9. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. And today on the show, I'm joined with Alex Greenberg, or on Twitter, at Acuna Tracker, big Braves fan. Alex, thanks for coming on.
Dan, thanks for having me, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I was really excited to be on this podcast for sure.
Same here, man. I listened to you and Peter Pratt, one of the best podcasters that the Marlins have over there in England, and you killed it. And I was surprised to hear that was your first episode. So you hit me up and we got something going, and I'm excited for this episode. Kind of going to talk more about just baseball as a whole, Major League Baseball, look at the standings, kind of give our thoughts surrounding the last 2 months of the season as we've kind of established who's a contender, who's not. The trade deadline has passed. But I kind of want to get your thoughts immediately, just how this season has gone as a Braves fan, and just looking at the standings. Where do you see this team? Where do you see the playoff picture kind of pan out?
Yeah, so the team, as it is, up to this point, has been mightily struggling. We've had a little bit of a run. We've had a run like in the middle of the year where we thought we were going to kind of get it together, and then we just cannot seem to get out of our own way a lot of times. That Rockies loss on Sunday was awful. We were up, I think it was 6 runs in the 8th inning, and the Rockies came back and beat us and dropped 7 on us. They didn't even bat in the 9th inning, which was just so wild. So coming off that,
I did see that.
Coming off that as a Braves fan, you're like, man, we just cannot. I mean, we're into August. We're into mid-August. Mm-hmm. So I like what I was talking about on Peter's podcast. I love that, some of these guys are coming back. I think they've learned from some of the recent mistakes they made. Like Max Fried just came back after missing a month and got lit up. And with Ronaldo Lopez, instead of just having him come back, they put him in AAA and just give him at least one rehab start. Sometimes they make the mistake of doing that, and they seem to do it with that one. But Michael Harris comes back today. He's great in the field. And last year, Michael Harris was really good in general. I mean, he was almost a 300 hitter. I mean, the guy I think is a really valuable piece to the team. And I know he wasn't great at the beginning of the year, but, the guy's still 22 years old. And
right.
So you got guys like that coming back. Ozzy Albies will be September. I'm not really banking on him, so much, but we have enough guys, especially that top 4 in the lineup, like Soler, Olsen, Riley, Ozuna, d'Arnaud. Some of these guys are starting to get hot. I think we do lead the league in home runs over the last 30 days. So we're starting to put it together a little bit. It's just we need to string together a little bit more wins, a little bit more momentum. And I think we could easily, I don't see any reason why we don't make the wild card, at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right in the thick of it, and we're going to take a look at the standings. I have the standings pulled up, and we'll take a look team by team, kind of who's in, give our thoughts, each of us, on, the Padres, the Braves, the Mets, etc. down the list. But it's kind of cool because, Alex, you're the first Braves fan I've had on the podcast. Usually it's a solo pod.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll either have Marlins fans, or I'll have just Peter or other podcasters, or myself. But at the beginning of this month, actually, I'm stationed in North Carolina. Me and my fiance, we drove down to go see the Braves in Truist Park. So that was a really awesome experience. Great ballpark. We had a lot of fun.
Did you like it? It's pretty cool, right?
I loved it. It was pretty cool because, the Marlins are in the midst of a, probably a 95, 100 loss season. And the 2 games I saw, we split the series, but I got to see some Marlins win. So that was pretty
that was pretty cool for you, man. I wasn't happy for me, but I knew you were there. Yeah. I was really happy for you. So that's cool.
Beautiful stadium too. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really nice, man. I'll be there next month. I'm going to see the Dodgers against the Braves.
That'll be a good one.
I can't wait to see that, man. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie, Freddie. Yeah. It's gonna be great.
Well, that's the thing. Like those star-studded matchups, it's just must-watch baseball. Like MLB Network showcase worthy. Like that's gonna be sick, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's Saturday night game too, so it's gonna be packed.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got the standings here. So there we go. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see on the screen. So we're going to start in the American League and just kind of work our way down into the National League because, both of us, Marlins, Braves fans, we tend to watch our teams the most. So I don't have a ton of time really to watch every Guardians game or Yankees game. But looking at the standings, it's the big three, right? The last few years, Guardians, Yankees, Astros, who really struggled at the beginning of the year, but have stormed their way back and are now leading the division. And then the wild card, we have the Orioles, Twins, Royals currently, and then the Red Sox and Mariners kind of looking outside, looking in. Any specific thoughts when you just take a look at the American League? What team stands out? Is there a powerhouse? Is there a sleeper team that you like? Anyone in particular?
Well, the Royals are interesting to me in general because if you look at a lot of the stats, especially like recently, they are really neck and neck with the Twins as far as how their statistics match up, like batting and pitching. And, you know, their run differential is really good for both of them. I'm so surprised that the Royals run differential is as good as it is. And you just want to think it's Bobby Witt Jr., but they do have a cast of characters there. And, you know, I like what they're doing. And, you know,
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason why they can't at least be, you know, in the thick of it. I think on the opposite side, I think the Red Sox have been horrible lately. They've blown some games that they really shouldn't have. And I don't see the Red Sox getting in. What do you think about that?
So I'm with you on the Royals. I really like the Royals. I mean, I love Bobby Witt Jr. He's just so fun to watch. Like as a fan of baseball, like watching him, same with Judge, but watching his development, I mean, he's become a superstar. He can do it all. He can hit, he can field. The plays he makes are incredible. And then you see the Royals as a team back to last season, they were terrible. You know, I think they had 56 wins or something like that. And now they've overachieved to the extent where they bought a little bit at the trade deadline. So I'm rooting for them. I think they have enough gas left in the tank to get into October. I think they do. Time will tell. The key for them was the pitching this year with Seth Lugo and like coming out of nowhere, right?
Awesome. Like, yeah. I mean, I wish we would have known that. We would have signed the guy. I mean, he's been incredible.
Like, people thought he was washed with the Mets, and he just kind of came to KC on a cheap deal and like took off. I'm like, wow, okay. So with the Red Sox, crazy. I don't know. I mean, they're a game and a half back. The Mariners is the team that I think is going to start fading. They just, I mean, last night losing 15-1 against the Tigers. The offense is still dead. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's sad because it's like the Mariners, for me at least, I like them. I like rooting for them, and their fan base deserves a postseason run. And I felt like this was their year. Like they jumped out to a 10-game lead in the division, and they just choked it away. It's brutal.
They did, which is sad. It's really sad. But if you look like the Mariners are kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the Guardians. Like if their pitching is not there, they get extremely exposed. Like their entire team gets exposed. You know, like the Guardians. I mean, their whole thing is always built on pitching. I mean, and then you have Ramirez and a couple other guys. But the Mariners, you know, they get extremely exposed when that pitching just gets lit up. And you're right. That's what's been happening. It's not been good for them, unfortunately. And the Astros, here we are again. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's incredible, and they just keep winning, and they don't have Kyle Tucker either, and it's crazy. It's like it doesn't matter who they have; that core is still really good. Like Bregman's on a heater right now, you know. The core is still really good, and their pitching's deep enough. And remember when they asked Dana Brown, who used to be the Braves assistant GM, they asked him right before the deadline. They said, "Hey, you know, are you selling?" And he said, "No, absolutely not. I'm not selling." So it was cool that he's confident in his guys, you know, and. Obviously, it's showing now. I mean, they're just as dangerous as anybody, in my opinion. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I remember back like May or June when they were still, you know, struggling 5-7 games under 500. And I said, this Astros run is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I like it because I don't like the Houston Astros at all. But from a, you know, like, but you got to respect them. You have to respect the front office when they committed to winning. They're like, yes, we're struggling now, but we're not going to sell anybody. We're going for it because they had internal belief in themselves. And it's a winning attitude. And on this podcast, I've talked a lot about, you know, winning attitude, losing attitude. And when the Marlins punted the season in May, that was a red flag to me and a lot of other fans that have been around the team for a while. But you got to give credit to the Astros. They stuck with it. They didn't punt. And now, I mean, they're 64-55, 9 games over heading into the final 2 months.
You know what's funny about the Astros is
Hmm.
do you remember there was a period where, well, I mean, they won the World Series and then they fired James Click, their GM, and
Yeah.
then there was a small period between that and when they hired Dana Brown. All those moves they made in the couple months were awful, like the Jose Abreu move. Like they just
Yeah.
totally cut him off the team. And Jeff Bagwell, I think of all people, was like making deals and calling shots, and and I still don't understand why they fired Click because they won a World Series, but Dana Brown is a winner. I mean, he's the one that found like Michael Harris with the Braves. I mean, think of all the guys coming through the Braves. Some of those guys were courted by Dana Brown, but it's interesting, like without that leadership, like in the middle, like that little period of time, they just made surface moves that just weren't the best, and yeah.
Well, I mean, a little bit of Astros news that ties into the Marlins. I tweeted about this earlier this past week. Was Oz Ocampo, who was their international like scout, one of their head guys for he got Framber Valdez, Brian De La Cruz, Christian Javier. He had joined Miami just a couple seasons ago, and in the baseball, he did, yeah. So he's been here since 2022, but news just broke out that Peter Bendix is letting him go. And
why on earth?
That's what I said. I said, why are you letting this guy go just for the sake of letting him go and bringing in your own guys? Like he was a Kim Ng, hire, I guess, and somebody that wasn't with the current regime. Like he didn't come in with Peter Bendix. He'd been here for a couple years, but you look at his track record. I mean, he signed an insane amount of talent to the Astros internationally.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, tons of international, like extremely good baseball players over the years.
This is the thing with the Marlins fan base now is I questioned it. I said, it makes no sense. And somebody is going, it makes sense. Bendix wants to bring in his own guys. And I said, yeah, okay, that's fine. But just because you say you have to accept these moves doesn't mean I can't question them as a fan. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. Is like you have to question and you can criticize your team when they make a move you disagree with. Because in my mind, I don't see why you would get rid of Ocampo. I just don't.
Yeah, it takes a real skill, and this is to your point. It takes a real skill to get down there and identify 15 and 16-year-olds and extrapolate that out and say, okay, well, here's what I think their trajectory is going to be. That's a skill. I mean, it's not just seeing 100%. Guys down there. I mean, it's not just seeing guys down there smashing baseball. There's so much more to it. And obviously that guy, I mean, if he's the one that came from the Astros, he was really, really good at it. Really good at it.
Yeah, he was instrumental in their dynasty, if you will. I mean, the Astros have, what, now 7 ALCS appearances in a row, maybe 8.
It's impressive.
It is really impressive. Well-run organization, just like your Braves. I mean, talking about Alex Anthopoulos, I think we were texting a little bit about him before we scheduled this episode, and I've seen some people. Now I don't know if it's in jest or not, but criticizing AA, being like, "Oh, what's he doing?" Same thing with Snitker, but from an outside perspective, somebody that's dealt with the Braves in the division, and I like to think I know a lot about the Braves because I've watched them so much, play the Marlins. I loved how you guys rebuilt back in like 2016, 2015 when they tore it down. And this is when Luis Arias was traded. I told people on Twitter, I said, when you rebuild, you have to do it correctly. You can't just tear it down. You have to establish a core. And that is exactly what the Braves did when they kept Freddie Freeman, when they kept Julio Teheran. Mike Foltynewicz was still around, through the lean years, if you will.
Yeah.
And they came out and then they were perennial playoff contenders. So what was kind of your thoughts as a Braves fan going through that rebuild? And did you notice anything, I guess, different that the Marlins aren't doing now?
Okay. Well, the rebuild was a little complicated in a way because John Coppolella was, fired and banned from baseball because of all those practices he was doing. So we lost, after 2017, the farm system was extremely loaded, brand new ballpark, loaded farm system. But with him being, terminated from baseball, it kind of, set us back right away in Braves minds opinion, in our minds. But then we bring in Alex Anthopoulos, and although we lost draft picks, we lost a bunch of international draft money, like tons of it for a few years. That's why part of the reason why our farm system was kind of lean for a few years is because we couldn't spend any money in the international draft pool, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But Alex Anthopoulos took the keys to a new stadium and, a group of really exciting young talent. So I think when Capolella was let go after 17, because we were all anticipating Acuna and all these other guys, Dansby Swanson came up, in 2016, Ozzie came up in 17. We were all excited about the future, but, we came off a 91 season. Our GM was banned from baseball. We lose all these international money. It was kind of tough because we're almost like, here we go again. But then they bring in Anthopoulos. And if you start to look at Anthopoulos, like his past, it was really interesting because the Blue Jays offered him an extension, and he came off he was a winner in Toronto. They offered him an extension. He didn't take it, and he went under the wings in LA with all those great executives. And when the right opportunity came up, he took it, and that it was with the Braves. So anyone that did a little research on him before he got when he took that job was really excited. Between him and the talent that was coming up, and the stadium and everything negative that happened, that was a huge bright spot for us. And going into 2018, I mean, we came off a 90-loss season in 17. Going into 2018, we were not expected to make the playoffs. And these guys like Acuna won the, Rookie of the Year. These guys came up, and some of these guys really, Tehran was awesome. Freeman was great. We had a really good run in 2018, and it was almost like, wow, we can do this. It was really cool. Right. So it was kind of the beginning of it. And to answer your question about the Marlins, if you look back just a couple years, with the Brinson thing and some of these other trades, you really did give away some talent. I mean, tons of talent.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
It wasn't that long ago. I mean, you had Real Muto, you had Yelich, you had Stanton, you had Ozuna, and that Ozuna trade, in itself was – actually, the Ozuna trade was pretty good because you got Chisholm.
We got Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, Sandy Alcantara. That's right.
And then Zach Gallen, we flipped him for Jazz. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. But you got Alcantara and Gallen for Ozuna, right? Yeah. So that trade was awesome. But if you look at the other ones, it wasn't really all that. Yeah, which sucks. So as a Marlins fan, you're like, well, heck, all of our guys are gone. And then we have no direction. And then I really think that with Bendix coming in here, and you're not going to agree with all the moves he's doing, but it just seems like at least he is cut from the right cloth with Tampa. And it just does seem like at least, at the very beginning of it, the early part of it, that his vision looks good as far as compiling, not just numbers, but actually high upside talent, which is exciting,
And also guys that are closer to major league ready,
that's great.
That was the key for me, which is why I praised him. I was like, hey, Bendix absolutely killed it this deadline because you got guys like Connor Norby and, Kyle Stowers is struggling right now. I think he'll turn it around. The exit velo still there. But he got major league guys that are so close, Augustine Ramirez, Davison De Los Santos. Whereas at the beginning, when he traded Arias, it was okay, Dylan Head, he's in single A hitting 240. It's how many years are we going to wait, But hopefully these guys can contribute in 2025. That's what I'm hoping for, is that at least we have a step in the right direction in 2025. I think that would be a win for the Marlins if you can see, a 10-game win increase maybe, and guys producing at the major league level. That would be huge. So
I got a question for you in regards to the rebuild. Okay, so how would you feel? Would it change the tone completely if, let's just say, a year from now, you got a couple of these studs come up, right? And they're still pre-arb. They got plenty of years of control. Would it change your mindset as a Marlins fan if you signed a couple of these guys to long-term deals? And those long-term deals are affordable at this time because it's really a risk for the player and the team. Would it make you feel differently than here we go again? Maybe not just you, just as Marlins fans.
Right. Well, 100%. I would be in favor for extensions. To me, when you're committing money to a player at not a Giancarlo Stanton contract, but an affordable contract, much like we've seen the Braves do, it shows faith and it shows a commitment to winning. and wanting to win. Because
Yeah.
what I don't want happening is a cycle where it's, okay, we're going to try to be good, and then it doesn't work. We're going to trade our guys and hope we have guys in the minors to immediately replace them, because that's what the Rays do. But I've preached this before, is that the Marlins aren't the Rays. The Rays, top to bottom, develop position players, especially. Their player development is a lot better, and they've had a lot of, things go their way. You have to have a lot of things go your way in order to continue this cycle. So selfishly as a fan, yeah, I mean, if let's say Connor Norby comes up in 25 and hits 290 with 28 bombs, like, yeah, I want that guy extended, I just don't know if Bruce Sherman, the owner, would commit that money. That's the sucky part of being a fan. But to your point, like, I mean, I think every fan wants to see their players extended.
Well, I think with the Marlins, though, in particular, like, if you feel like, if you're a Marlins fan and you someone comes up that's awesome, like, or you trade for Arias, you get Arias, he's awesome, right? Like, you can't necessarily feel confident buying his jersey and knowing that you can wear it for the next 5 years, right?
Right.
So I think, and that's kind of been the narrative for at least 5, 6, 7 years now with the Marlins.
Yeah.
I think that would maybe even just a couple guys would, change that a little bit and say, hey, at least we have some anchors in the ground.
I agree. It's like when speaking of Arias, I mean, I love Luis Arias. I've been watching the Padres the last couple nights just because I like the Padres, and I like watching Arias play. I like watching him hit, his approach and everything. He was one of my favorite Marlins. And after last year, I said, extend him. Why aren't you extending him? Like, there was no reason to back-to-back batting champion, and they don't. 4 months later, he's traded. Like, to me, that it's terrible. It's just terrible. But right now, moving forward, it's just, you have to wait and see with these prospects, because if Norby, Ramirez, De Los Santos, if these guys don't pan out, and I mean, a prospect is still a prospect, you have to give them next year. Is going to be so huge for their development, because if they don't work out, then this whole deadline was a failure, so. Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
I'm curious to see if Bendix, if Bendix is cut from the Rays cloth in a sense that, like, the Rays don't necessarily give these long extensions. They just don't. They did with Blake Snell, but then they traded him. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they'll trade everyone.
Yeah, I hope he's not cut from that part of the cloth, because it would be nice if they just anchored on a couple guys, and the great Marlins fan base can be like, okay, this is my guy, like Arias should have been, or Jazz could have been.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. But we'll see. I feel good about where they're going, at least. It would be,
at least they have a direction now.
Yeah. If they didn't do anything and they just held on to all these guys, I know you made the playoffs last year, but you probably wouldn't feel great about the team direction at all, at this point.
Right. I mean, I've said this before. I said I wanted them to go for it. I mean, when you have last year and you did get in the playoffs, but your team needed upgrades. I mean, there was holes on that team, shortstop and catcher, and your best offensive additions in free agency were Christian Bethancourt and Tim Anderson. You're not trying to win. You're not trying to win. So it's just like, I felt like they owed it to the fans, and as a competitor, you want to see your team go for it at least. If it doesn't work, okay, it didn't work, but at least go for it. But
that would have been cool, dude.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. I mean, they had a bunch of guys, and a lot of these pitchers got hurt too, like Yuri Perez.
Yeah, injuries were brutal too, like Yuri and Sandy. Like that killed you right at the beginning of the year too.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the National League, if we can see this here. Kind of talked about the American League for a little bit. Now both our teams, National League. Mine's all the way at the bottom, but whatever.
That's fine.
We'll look at the divisions here. Dodgers, best record. I mean, it's a new year, new record. It's the same thing, though. Same team. Dodgers up there in the NL West. Phillies, 19 games under or over 500, looking pretty good. And then the Brewers should win the division. I feel pretty confident, Alex, in saying all these teams will win their division.
I would say so too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You could argue that the Charging Diamondbacks and Padres, I don't think it matters. I mean, Freddie was gone for like a week. or over a week, and then Mookie's been gone for a while. They're both back. I don't see any way that either of those teams overtake the Dodgers. No way.
I don't either. I don't think they're deep enough like the Dodgers are. The Dodgers are they're too deep. Like, they made the additions they had to, and I mean, I think it's been 8 of the last 9 years or something like that they've won the West. They lost to the Giants by like half a game a couple years back, but
2021,
the West is their division.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that random year where the Giants win like 107 games. You're like, what? Where'd that come from?
Dude, that helped us so much because they were in this playoff chase with the Giants, and it went to the end, and it wore them out, and they just beat up on each other. And then we finally got to play them in the NLCS, and they were gassed like the Dodgers.
Yeah, they had nothing left.
It was great for us.
That was Tyler Matzik locked it down. That series. Yeah,
it was awesome. So we were very fortunate on that one. But yeah, you're right. Every year, I mean, it's their division. It's just ho hum with them.
Yep. I'm a little surprised with the National League East. Obviously, I didn't expect the Marlins to be this bad, but with the Phillies and Braves, I probably would have predicted the Braves to win the division. But like you said, it's been a rough season for you guys, but they're still in playoff position, which is good. Still in playoff position.
Yeah, they are. And the biggest problem that we've really had is, for months, I mean, we pretty much controlled that top spot. Even though we were way behind the Phillies, we controlled the top spot. But now we're not far away from not even making it. So if we could just hold on to that seed, it would have been nice if we just played 500 baseball since the All-Star break. We'd be a little bit, more distance from like the Mets or the Giants, but it is what it is. And I'm with you. I thought the Braves would win the division too. And I think that the Phillies, they had such a giant head start in the first few months over us that even though the Phillies are playing bad now, we're playing almost just as bad, like over the last, since the All-Star break. So I think it's definitely their division. And if we could just hang in the wild card, I mean, we have a chance like anybody else, really. What do you think about the Padres? I mean, they've just been lighting it up.
Dude, they're on fire. They're on fire, man. Like, that's what I've been saying. It's like, I was watching this past series against the Pirates. I mean, the pitching's lights out, and then offensively, you get timely hits. I mean, Merrill's a star. Jackson Merrill's a freaking
awesome.
Star.
Love that guy.
Yeah, and then I think they're gonna be dangerous, man. I really do. I think they take Arizona. I think they overtake Arizona, get the first wild card, and then matching up in the playoffs. I mean, when you're on a roll, you're on a roll, and it's really clicking. Now you're 15 games over 500. No signs of slowing down. I mean, they don't really have a glaring weakness on their team that they didn't address. They got a good bullpen now. They got Tanner Scott from the Marlins, so I like him, man.
That guy, that GM for the Padres is so funny to me. I mean, he's just like, he's playing fantasy baseball always. He's playing MLB The Show franchise like constantly. I mean, he's always
regrets.
No regrets. He'll trade the whole farm system. No regrets.
I love it though. Like, the dude wants to win. I mean, the Juan Soto trade, everybody was like, oh, if they could have CJ Abrams back and Mackenzie Gore. I'm like, dude, at the time they got freaking Juan Soto. Okay, the man goes out and is aggressive and wants to win, and I respect that. I respect the hell out of that.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I definitely respect that. I think, he does a good job. There's a reason why he's been employed so long, and they've been in it the last few years. They've been in it, and you're right. This year, man, if they could keep doing what they're doing, I don't see any reason why they don't overtake the Diamondbacks. I don't think they'll quite catch the Dodgers, but once these teams get in the playoffs, man, it doesn't matter. Like the 84-win Diamondbacks went to the World Series last year. It just doesn't matter. It's a crapshoot. You just need to get in, and you need to be hot at the right time, really. And that's
the thing. I mean, like the Braves right now aren't hot. The Mets have somehow creeped back into it. I think it's going to be a race between those two for the final wild card spot. I don't think the Giants have enough in the tank. I just don't. And the Cardinals 3.5 back. It's like, I don't see the Cardinals making a run either. Do you? I think it's really Mets, Braves, Padres, D-backs for the 3 spots.
Look at the Cardinals' run differential. Look how awful that is. I mean, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable, which is weird. Like, we're going to look back in the Goldie and Arenado era, and kind of ask, like, well, what came of this era? I mean, those are two extremely good ball players.
Right. Possibly Hall of Famers,
Yeah. Just
It's
great baseball players.
and they didn't win
big time moves. Nothing. They didn't have enough talent coming up. And for those years that the development was great in St. Louis, I mean, these last like 5-6 years, not that great. I mean, these guys coming up aren't really all that. There hasn't been. I mean, Jordan Walker, he should be, lighting it up in the majors. I mean, he's like Jason Hayward 2.0 or something.
Right. Because he was good last year. I mean, he was solid.
Yeah.
And then this year he just starts off like hitting 140, and he's been in AAA the last 3 months. It's like, man, like what's going on over in St. Louis? Like since 5-6 years ago, since the Cubs started coming up, they really haven't been the same team.
Another thing that's really interesting to me on this page, look at two things on the Reds. The run differential is awesome. It's better than the Braves. And look at their expected wins, 65 and 55, which is crazy. They would be in the wild card and not the Braves. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean everything, but the fact that says that is pretty impressive. And, they have some guys, and they have guys coming up that their next round of people's coming up. Ellie De La Cruz is electric. He's awesome. I love watching that guy play. I mean, they have some talent. I mean, I don't think that they're really going to make a run this year, but they have guys, and you could see, I mean, they could hit the ball.
And with Cincy, I thought they were going to be competitive this year, but I think next year is really going to be their year. Same with the Nationals. I think the Nationals took a step forward this year, but you're going to see the Nats make a wild card run next year 100%.
I'm so on that train, man. I'm with you on that one. I think so too. They got tons of young talent. They have talent already in the majors. They really could easily be in the thick of things next year. What about the Cubs, dude? I mean, they come off of last year, barely missed the playoffs. They spend some money in the offseason, bring back Bellinger, hold on to him at the deadline. And I know that weird contract that he has, it's like it's an option that he can exercise. So it's like, was it $32 million or something like that? And he could exercise it or not. So it's like if he plays great, he's not going to exercise it. If he sucks, he'll exercise it. So it's kind of a weird thing to trade away. But I don't know.
It was a weird deadline too, because like they bought, but they also sold. Mm-hmm. It was like, what are you, a buyer or a seller? Because they traded for Isaac Paredes.
That's right.
And then they traded away Christopher Morel. And then they also got some bullpen piece from the Blue Jays. It's like, what are you doing exactly? And now they're stuck in no man's land. Like, at least the Pirates, like, they're not going to make it this year, but at least the Pirates went for something. Because they're going to be good next year. Skeens and Jared Jones are insane.
Oh, my goodness. Dude, Skeens is so fun to watch. You ever seen his warm-up routine, like how he warms up? It's incredible. Like, the guy's got this, like, big, wild routine, and I don't know. He's so fun to watch.
Dude, he's electric. You think Skeens wins Rookie of the Year, or should it be Merrill?
I think it'll end up being Skeens just because of the name and what he's done, and I know he hasn't been up all year. I think it'll be Skeens. What do you think?
I think it will be Skeens. I think it should be Skeens. I mean, you start off your career. I mean, he's over 100 strikeouts already in like 13, 14 starts, and started the All-Star game for the
I know, how cool is that?
Like, as a rookie, it's crazy.
That. I'm so glad they did that. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool for baseball in general,
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, he's electric to watch. Like, how can you not like watching him pitch? He throws 101 miles an hour with – I mean, it's awesome. It's dominant. And then the big sweeper slider, it's great to see.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Have you watched Chris Sale this year at all? How great is he?
I haven't watched him too much, but, I mean, dude, career resurgence, though. I mean, he might win the Cy Young.
Yeah, unbelievable. And if you looked at all his stats, it's like he leads the league in almost everything. I mean, wins above replacement, he's like a whole win above everybody else, and he's just been great this year. What a great trade for us to get him. I can't imagine where we'd be without him.
I mean, Sale has been great for you, and Ronaldo Lopez, man, coming out of being a reliever, and
I know
he was on fire the first half of the year. So hopefully he gets back healthy, stays healthy.
Yeah, he got LASIK halfway through last year because I think he was a starter with the Nationals, and it just didn't work out. And he went to be a reliever, and he was great, but he got LASIK like halfway through last year, or maybe it was before. But when he got LASIK surgery, I mean, the guy's awesome. Like, he could just, he could pitch, and I'm glad that we bet on him the way that we did. I mean, he's only on a 3-year, $30 million contract, which is so friendly, team friendly.
Yeah, which is, again, the Braves making good contracts, kind of like the Royals did. I mean, the Royals financially, they're not a big market team like Atlanta or LA or Philly. But, man, going back to the Royals, we talked about them at the beginning of the show, and we'll wrap this up here as we're approaching 36 minutes. Well, it's been a good episode. But the Royals, man, I'm interested to see them in the playoffs. Like you said it before. You said when you get in the postseason, you get there, can you get hot? Royals have a couple really good pitchers with Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. And then with Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, like they're going to be a fun team, dude.
We talked about extensions earlier, and how cool is it that a team like the Royals, like the Royals, take this guy with immense talent and just dump a bunch of money into him and say, hey, here's our guy. The Guardians did that too, essentially, with Jose Ramirez. I just love that. I think that's
great. It's awesome. It's great for the game of baseball.
Picked him off of free agency. Like it was good for baseball. I wish it happened a little bit more.
It's great for the game. It's great for your fans. I mean, the Royals, that's a show that's showing faith in your guy. It's showing faith in your team that this guy is going to be the face of your franchise and bring you a World Series, or at least a chance to win a World Series. So, definitely. And look at that. He has an MVP case. If Judge wasn't having the year he's having, Witt MVP by far. It's great to see.
It is. I would love to see him under the bright lights in the playoffs. How cool would that be?
Dude, can you imagine a Royals-Yankees playoff series?
Like in Kansas City, like in that stadium. Oh, man, that would be a lot of fun. I would really enjoy watching that.
Well, Alex, we're going to wrap it up here, but it's been really fun talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on. That really means a lot to me. And I'll tell you what, man, the Marlins fan base is awesome. I love interacting with you guys. Everybody's just great, and you're just great baseball people that love their team.
I appreciate the kind words, Alex, and we're definitely got to stay in touch, man. It's going to be a fun last couple of months of the season as we head into playoff baseball and the pennant stretch down the way. But as for this episode, we're going to wrap it up. And with that, we'll be back next time on Marlins 9, and let's go fish.